When does parenting get easier? It is a hard thing. It's the hardest thing we ever do. I know that. I teach parenting, good communication, and relationship building all over the world. I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach self-government. And in this video, I'm going to hopefully help you have a little bit of hope for when and how that parenting might get easier. In this video, we're going to talk about the good news and the bad news about parenting, spending most of our time on the good news, how it can become easier for you, and what it means when parenting truly is easier, and some key things that you can do. Why do people want to know when parenting will get easier? Because it's hard. It is one of the hardest things that a person ever does to train, motivate, correct, strengthen, form, script another person, and then to see them make mistakes and help them out of it, be there for them again and again, and say to themselves, I taught them that, right? We already taught them that. Why are we having this problem? There are so many ups and downs in parenting. I will say it is more valuable to focus on the ups than the downs. I know there are moments where we just feel like it's all collapsing in. We've tried our hardest and it seems like it's just not getting any better. But it can get better. And I know that. I've taken some of the most troubled children into my home. For many years, I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. These teens were teens that had trauma. They were dysfunctional in many different ways. They didn't have regular skills or even normal values a lot of the time, as far as like human to human connection values. They oftentimes were processing differently, so many of them were non-neurotypical and had suffered some pretty severe abuse. Now, these youth needed somebody who would do the hard stuff with them so that they could pass this horrible time in their life where they felt like sometimes life wasn't even worth living. Now, I'll tell you what, it's always worth living. It always can get better. There are always things that seem like they're horrible in the minute, but they teach us so much that later we wouldn't trade that experience that we had. And I promise you that some of the hardest things that have happened in my life through that parenting role that I've had are now the things that are strengthening so many other people around me. So don't forget that, especially as we go into a little bit of bad news. We're going to talk about the bad news first, and then we're going to talk about the good news. So the bad news is that when people have babies and they're being woken up in the night, they say to themselves, when is this going to end? The next phase must be better. And then the next phase is a toddler going, no, and yelling and hitting and biting. And they're like, whoa, okay, when the child can fully communicate, it's got to get better. And then when the child can fully communicate, they start to manipulate and lie. And they think, surely it must be better after we get through all these little behaviors. Then the child hits adolescence. Hormonally, developmentally, they're going through some really big changes. They get moody and emotional, selfish, slightly detached. And the parents think to themselves, is it never going to get better? Should I just look forward to them leaving the house? And then guess what happens? They leave the house, or they don't, which is also hard for many families. And so they reach adulthood, and then you worry. And you think, should they date that person? He's got a lot of red flags. That might not be good for them. Or, are they staying true to their values, to their morals and their principles, to their faith? Oh no, they're struggling. They're getting in with some people that might not be good. They're testing things in a way that I know could lead them to not have good situations. And then you think they'll get married or they'll start a family, it'll change. And then they do. And they are humbled quite a bit because now they're into the hard part of it. But then you worry about them knowing everything that they need in that next phase of their life. As a parent, you always worry about your children. You always see what they need next because you've been through it. And so guess what? It's just always hard. Now, sure, you might say, yeah, but they're not waking up in the night anymore. But I have met parents of teens who have said, I'd rather wake up in the night, stay up most nights, than know that my child is doing these things that will hurt them with drugs and all this other stuff that we're dealing with. Here's the bad news. The bad news is there's always going to be something hard with child raising around the corner. And when you think they're finally all raised, you'll still worry because the love runs that deep. But that's also the good news. The good news is the love runs deep. You're in it for the long game, which means you don't have to spend all of your time putting all of your happiness eggs in one basket. You can take a long view of where you're headed ultimately in this relationship, of this type of person that you're creating for a future outcome, instead of creating a perfect child. When I took in troubled teens and when I was raising my 4 children, I told myself a vital truth. I am not raising perfect children, I said to myself. Those do not exist. Instead, what I am doing is I am raising a certain type of an adult. I'm raising joyful adults who know what their mission in life is and can't wait to fight for it and have solid relationships with God and family. That's the type of person, the type of product that I wanted to turn out of my home. So what that meant was I needed to focus on that type of an adult instead of trying to make sure that the child was perfect. I needed to keep a long view. This would help me correct all the things that needed correction. It would also help me transition to the next phase of the next hard bit. It would also help me recognize I don't need to think of any of this as hard. I just need to think of it as progress. We are constantly making progress. Even if it seems like they're not listening to a word, they're not wanting to bond or connect, they are putting up every wall. That is still a moment you have to get through, so it's still progress. So how did we do that? Now that's what I want to spend the time talking about. How did I keep myself in that frame of mind? Also, what did I do to actually make it better? Because here's the good news. The good news is there is a way to improve the parenting interactions so that they don't have to drain you all the time. So that you don't have to spend all of your days correcting, and feeling like you're a negative person and that your child hates being with you. It doesn't have to be like that. There's something that you can do. We're going to talk about what you can do, but first, do you see that subscribe button? That button is going to help you. There is so much content on this channel already, but more coming out every single day. So be sure to click that subscribe button so that you get notified of the content that can help you make this parenting job a little bit easier. So what do you do that makes it easier? Well, I've tried to make it easier for you to know what to do to make it easier. I have an entire course. It's called the TSG Parenting Course. These are some of the books that add on to the course, things that you can learn. The main book, just so you know, is this one, Parenting a House United. This is kind of the key piece to it all, but all of these books help. These books down here, they teach the children. These books here help you teach the children problem solving, hold everybody accountable in meetings and such. And these other books here, these help you with your own parental self-government and help you improve your relationships with your children. So these are going to be a great help for you as you go through the TSG Parenting course. Now, let me just explain to you some of the things that you'll learn in that training that will really help make parenting easier for you. These 4 books that are meant to teach children, probably ages 12 and under, are fabulous for teaching children the 4 basic skills of self-government. Now, these skills are also taught in that Parenting a House United book, so you can find out what the skills are there. This just makes it really easy to teach the children and to reinforce that use of such powerful skills. So what 4 skills are taught in these books? following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. When a person learns these 4 basic skills, that takes care of 99% of their behavioral problems. Even when I did treatment care for troubled teens, even when they were 17 years old and they came to my home for the first time, we started with these 4 basic skills. So everyone needs them. They are adult skills for success. Now, there are other skills that we teach the adults, 5 skills that adults need for how to correct problems, but we teach all the skills to the children too. This is the type of parenting where there are no surprises for the children. We don't shock them into good behavior, shock them into taking responsibility for themselves, try to emotionally control them by eliciting some sort of, feeling of regret or shame. No. Not at all. This is a learning type of parenting where they know exactly how they're being parented and why. They have that sense of empowerment that comes from predictability and increased learning. They know who you are, they know who they are. They understand the family roles, where the family is headed, and when they need to course correct. What are some of those hard things that can happen daily that wear us out? How many times do we need to tell them to do their chore? Well, guess what? If they know how to follow instructions, they know that they should look at the person or the situation, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay, or ask to disagree appropriately, that other helpful skill, do the task immediately, and then check back. If they miss any one of those steps, even looking at the person or keeping a calm face, voice, and body, then the parent does a correction. The child knows exactly how they'll be corrected, they know the exact words, and they know the consequences that will be used. I use a type of consequence where they have to accept it. It's not something that I do to them, because one of those 4 basic skills is accepting consequences. Accepting consequences is the only way to actually take full ownership of your own behaviors, thoughts, and self-government. So that means you have to have the opportunity to say, okay, I did that. I will accept this consequence. And there's a way that we do that. When your children know how you will correct them, how you will handle the situations that are going completely out of control, what skills they need, when the family is going to discuss, and where the family is ultimately headed in the big picture view of your family, they feel a lot more confident and secure. They might also feel like, wow, our family's kind of scripted. But here's the thing. Your family's already scripted. Right now you're scripting frustration, maybe anger, you're emoting at each other. That's all power struggling and emotional manipulation. That is not a great environment for you or for them. Everyone's going to get worn out. We need the family to get to a place of calmness, and I want to help you with that. Since you have started on this journey to self-government, a really great first stop for you is my Calm Parenting Toolkit. The Calm Parenting Toolkit is a mini course designed to help parents understand calmness, understand how to get themselves calm, and how to get their children calm at the same time. You're not going to want to miss this. It doesn't take too much of your time. It might take a couple of hours tops to go through this little mini course. It's definitely not the entire Teaching Self-Government course. I do have to give you full disclosure there, but it will get you going. You'll be ready then after that Calm Parenting Toolkit to get started on learning the skills and principles of self-government that can make parenting at your house a little bit easier. In the description below this video, there is a link to the Calm Parenting Toolkit. It says teachselfgov.com/toolkit. Click on that link right now and I'll see you at the Calm Parenting Toolkit.